So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. So how can you get started using Globus? Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily...
Well, you may run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Let me tell you, God Almighty's gonna cut you down. Just run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Let me tell you, God Almighty's gonna cut you down.
Well, stop, God Almighty, let me tell you the news. My head's been wet with the midnight dew. I've been down on my bended knee, talking to the man from Galilee. Well, my God spoke, and he spoke so sweet. I thought I heard a shuffle of angels' feet. He put one hand upon my head. Great God Almighty, let me tell you what he said.
Don't tell that long-tongued liar, don't tell that midnight rider, tell the gambler, rambler, backbiter, tell him God Almighty's gonna cut him down. You may run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Let me tell you, God Almighty's gonna cut you down.
You may run in the hide, slip and slide, talking about the mote in your neighbor's eye. But sure as God made day and night, what you do in the dark will be brought to the light. You may run in the hide, slip and slide, talking about the mote in your neighbor's eye. But sure as God made rich and poor, you're gonna reap just what you sow. You can run on for a long time,
run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Let me tell you, God Almighty's gonna cut you down. Go tell that long-tongued liar, go tell that midnight rider, tell the gambler, the rambler, backbiter, tell them God Almighty's gonna cut him down.
Some brothers go to church just to signify, trying to get a date with the neighbor's wife. But brother, let me tell you, sure as you're born, you better leave that woman alone, because one of these days, you mark my word, you think that brother is going to work, you're going to come up and knock on his door. That's all, brother, you'll knock no more. You can run on for a long time,
run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Let me tell you, God Almighty's gonna cut you down. Go tell that long-tongued liar, go tell that midnight rider, tell the gambler, rambler, backbiter, tell him God Almighty's gonna cut him down. You may run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Let me tell you, God Almighty's gonna cut you down.
Dosh, night seeds and forest animals, bish bosh. I'm no good with an arrow. It ain't a treble 20 type thing, just straight wood eating, raw meat behind a tree stump. Kids crying, just been nabbed by some fucking new kind of snake, screaming, crying. It's the law of the dark, banging my head against bark in the blanket rain. I got nettles and shit, biting shins and whatever, tangled branches and bullshit, any kind of weather.
Yeah. Young black working class, I take all the above. Gotta look good for the photo op, could the pose on, damn it too good. Fake promises from MPs, now we ain't getting no love. But that's already big facts, and they know you're coming from the government. Rang my phone about tax, Lied about that, could've not get that. Keep saying next year that I might vote, but none of these pricks do shit for the fam. Urban gets loved by the middle class, but his arms length didn't wanna get stabbed. Nothing but criminals working in parliament, nothing but criminals working in banks. Watching the news, can't believe what I'm seeing. Acting like immigrants aren't human beings. Man's on violence like man's English, and I take the piss like snow European. They got backlash deporting Wimbush, and then they said you're alright for the time being. They keep saying that Britain is great, but they mean Britain is great with no one like me. And
the world's fucked, innit? I can tell something ain't right. It's 1 minute to midnight. The world's fucked, innit? I can tell something ain't right. It's 1 minute to midnight. The world's fucked, innit? I can tell something ain't right. It's 1 minute to midnight. It's 1 minute to midnight. The world's fucked, innit? I can tell something ain't right. It's 1 minute to midnight. It's 1 minute to midnight.
the rich got rich since Brexit. NHS fucked and they're not gonna mend it. I know money's corrupting us all. War criminals on my notes expensive. I said fuck the purpose in charge. Everything that I've ever said, I've meant it. I just break the rules, I don't bend it. Might get Malcolm X, they expect it.
What's Dosh? Now see, straight out till dipper. Retail finger ripper. What's Dosh? Now see, straight out till dipper. Retail finger ripper. What's Dosh? Now see, straight out till dipper. Retail finger ripper. What's Dosh? Now see, straight out till dipper. Retail finger ripper. Fucked, innit? I can tell something ain't right. It's 1 minute to midnight. It's 1 minute to midnight. The world's fucked, innit? I can tell something ain't right. It's 1 minute to midnight. It's 1 minute to midnight.
Yo. What up, though? Ignore that. Ignore that.
God damn. God.
Before I get into anything, I would like to present you with a ringing endorsement from Teller's Live.
God damn. God damn it. Fuck, you're right. Globus is right. Absolutely. God bless and protect us once again. See, last time I prayed to you, Jesus, to keep us on track. We didn't, but do you know who did? Twitch Jesus, Globus the Elder. Fucking go check out fucking Twitch Jesus, Globus the Elder. He doesn't refer to himself as that, but that's who he is to me now because he did a better job of keeping me on track than fucking Jesus himself. So, all right. Yeah, absolutely. Jesus didn't fucking pull through like fucking Globus did. And, you know, when it comes down to it, what really matters at the end of the day is who's there, you know? Who is there? And, you know, sometimes, you know, when there used to be two footprints and you see only one set of footprints, you know, and Jesus says, I was carrying you, my son. And then you have to just say, no, Jesus, no, you fucking left, dog. You weren't wearing shoes. I was. I can see the footprints. Fucking dog, you weren't there. No, it's fucking Globus fucking like yelling actually from like the side. Hey, dog, you're like starting to like, what? There's like a cliff over there. You should like stop and like, look, stop. Globus is actually the one that was there. Like, you fucking left a while ago, dog. Like, don't try to play that footprint shit with me. You left. You weren't there. But Globus was amazing.
Amazing.
True, all true, fully endorsed.
And as a matter of fact, I currently have 11 subscribers. So I need one more person to go ahead and subscribe, and then I'll have 12, and then we can get this thing going. The jokes. I do the jokes. I'm fucking hilarious on the internet. Today is the greatest day I've ever known. Today we are going to talk to the homie Levelhead. We're going to continue with the AI and art series. This is part 7. If you don't know Levelhead is, if you don't know Levelhead, what are you doing with your life? But if you don't know Levelhead is a journalist in Colorado, reports on a variety of different things, but commonly related to water and things related to waters and fracking and oil pumping and oil leaks, things all surrounding that. And it's a big deal because water is going to become a concern in the future, and like everything else, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. And we need to be addressing water-related issues right now, especially because capitalism is working that particular item at both ends. It is both commodifying our water and reducing the amount of water that's available for usage. Like, one of the things that I didn't know about fracking is that the water that is produced in the process of fracking, and by produce I mean like used to help squeeze the natural gas out, is toxic and corrosive, and basically they just take it to a place and put it in trucks, and then it leaks, or they put it into like basically giant swimming pools with rubber liners and leave it, which is cool because nothing ever goes wrong when you do that shit. Like, fossil fuels in general are bad, but like crypto, or like fracking is the crypto of fossil fuels. Not only is it bad, it's worse than you think it is, and it's going to cause a bunch of problems, and only so many people are going to get rich, and the rest of us are going to have to deal with bullshit because of it. So we're going to talk to Levelhead about AI as it relates to journalism, journalistic writing. Levelhead is also a musician. He's a drummer in a metal band, and does metal band stuff. And one of the things we talked about with Basic PJ was how the the drum machine in some ways replaced the drummer, and in other ways did not. Like that there are certain aspects to a live drummer that are different from a drum machine. So, and I enjoy talking to Levelhead. He was one of my interviews, and true homie here on Twitch. So I am absolutely looking forward to that conversation, and that should be happening in about 17 minutes. You can run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gonna cut you down. Sooner or later, gonna Cut you down. That was something I didn't know. I didn't realize that that song. That I knew it from Johnny Cash, but I didn't realize that it was originally done as a spiritual by some black folks, and I hope they got properly compensated as one of his most famous songs. I am
What is
all right, let's take a look at this. It's a short video, 2.5 minutes. You can run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long. Kind of quiet, so I'll be quiet.
what is the AI journalism? Artificial intelligence journalism is a new concept in the media industry, and we can consider it's a product of the fourth industrial revolution.
AI journalism is a new term coined by Egyptian journalist and academic expert Muhammad Abdel-Zahir, has not been used before and will replace citizen journalism and coincide with the techniques of 4IR. This is where media will seek to use techniques of AI and 4IR to the fullest in terms of relying on the latest satellites that penetrate the internet speed to beyond 1,000 megabytes and the use of 3D cameras in a superior, clearer and more comprehensive way than the naked eye, as well as thousands of robots covering events in the most dangerous places. High-definition mobile devices for imaging, transmission, and communication, Internet of Things or IoT platforms, and Open Data Platforms or ODP.
So we can say AI journalism will create a new revolution in the media industry, where there are no geographic or legal borders, and there is no restrictions imposed by governments on the freedom of news, broadcasting, and access to specific information. We can say AI journalism competition will be very strong. The winner of the race will be the one who gets those opportunities and has access to the latest modern technologies.
Muhammad Abdel-Zahir says the role of artificial intelligence journalism is represented in 4 main themes: creating tools, content coining, audience diversity, and continuing reactions. Looking to the new tools in artificial intelligence journalism, the media will rely entirely on the techniques of the fourth industrial revolution. For more information about artificial intelligence journalism, please follow us on our social platforms.
Like in many other fields.
So, like, I don't want to ascribe anything to that person. But some of the gravity works. Some of the terminology that was used makes me uncomfortable, right? Like when people use terms around the government, like, and how the government wouldn't be able to interrupt news. I would need clarifying questions around that, right? Because different governments have varying levels of restriction regarding what information, is available to its citizens. And being able to get a more diverse amount of information to a greater range of citizens sounds good, with the caveat that a lot of the discourse around free speech and information diffusion, especially related to something like Twitter, is related to the, what's up, Magic City? Is related to the ability for people to spread information which is varying degrees, going all the way from just inaccurate all the way to dangerous, right? And dangerous is subjective and can be used, blah, 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 blah. But when people are using, for instance, horse dewormer to treat a COVID infection, there are side effects. Those side effects, apparently, I haven't done deep research, but I have read some things that indicate that the horse dewormer can mess with your gut bacteria. And your gut bacteria is an important system that a lot of people don't think about. But it's a very important system, not only for your ability to digest food, but there's also information related to that. The way that your gut bacteria functions is also related to your mental health and other, things of that nature. So, like if you take an antibiotic, it can be beneficial to you, at least during that time, to consume something like yogurt, right? Which helps to give you a good array of gut bacteria to aid you in digestion and all that kind of thing. Because the antibiotic is going to kill some of your gut bacteria during that time that you're taking it. The same is true, could be true. Like I'm going off surface level understanding, but it seems consistent that the horse dewormer messes with your gut bacteria and can lead to, let's say, problematic outcomes. Okay? And especially for people who are more vulnerable to changes in their nutrient intake, their hydration intake, all these kind of things, the disruption of their gut bacteria can be life-threatening. So putting out the information of something that is not only wildly inaccurate, because there has been no confirmation, and some studies specifically refuting that ivermectin helps you in any way with COVID. So if I tell you to take something as a Twitch streamer, if I say, oh, you should take this, and then something bad happens to you, I could be held responsible because I specifically told you to take something. But if I say, well, people talk about the use of this to treat that condition, and then you go ahead and take this and there's bad side effects, well, there's a technicality there where I can get away with giving you bullshit information, serving it up to you, but not bearing any of the responsibility for the words that come out of my mouth. And there are other things around this. The entire concept of stochastic terrorism is built around this. That there is a line that you can cross, and as long as you don't, you get to bear no responsibility for the words that come out of your mouth as they relate to other people. And practicality, boots on the ground, would indicate otherwise. But we live in a world where you can get away with shenanigans. And that's why it's important to have journalists that have ethics, and that you can take their reporting and compare it to their stated ethics and be able to draw conclusions. And it should be consistent. And then there are other journalists who basically write what are extended opinion pieces and use particular turns of phrase and particular language without explicitly stating something, but lead you to the conclusion that they want you led to. And that would be my concern with a fully AI journalist, is that it would be potentially subject to the whims of a particular corporate entity that could use specific algorithmic shenanigans in order to have, like, let's say, very kind stories to be written about them. And that we will not be able to hear about the things that they don't want us to hear about. Whether or not that's the case, I don't know. We're looking at a potential for the same kind of scenario that we have with the art situation. You know that based on the opinions of the people that we've talked to this week or last week, that they're like a general outlook across them all. Like if I was doing a sample across all the people that I talk to related to art, the general opinion is that while some people are going to unfortunately lose their livelihoods, the general trend is that AI will simply be another available tool, another available option, and, will not severely negatively impact the livelihoods of artists, generally speaking. I'm interested to hear what Levelhead thinks about that. You can run, no. I should poke him. I should check his. Let me check his stream. Check, check.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. Okay, it's all working. What's up, Globus?
What is happening? Are you turning on your camera in Discord?
I can turn it on. I can do the virtual camera thing. So let me do that real quick. Studio mode. Let's see. I'll go to this screen. How's your day going?
Oh, not too bad. I had my annual physical, and so I went to get some blood work done and everything else, and I'm waiting to hear back. I had some high cholesterol, and it went down, and I am hoping it has continued to go down, and we'll find out in a couple of days.
Nice. Well, that sounds like pretty good outcome, pretty good result. Wait, if I do a window capture of fucking Discord, apparently it doesn't work. Okay, anyways, doesn't matter. Start virtual camera, and then in here, virtual camera.
You should be able to do a window capture of Discord.
Hello.
Hello.
I see myself. It's fine. I'll probably just window capture your stream. Let's put it up that way. Be slightly delayed, but that's all good. And then we'll get, what is it when it's just like cascading in on itself over and over? Yeah.
Yeah. I love recursion. It makes me happy. There was a cartoon called Devil and Daniel Mouse, and they looked at this can of dog food, which had a picture of a dog looking at the can of dog food, which had a picture of a dog looking, and you descend into this, and I was like, this is amazing. And I was like 12 or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I remember like being young and seeing stuff like that too, and like just thinking it was really cool, and like imagining like trying to look real close, like how small did they make it?
I'm just gonna reverse your stream on my stream so you look like you're facing at me. So sorry, my chat, you can't read his chat.
Let's see. Let me go. I better double check and make sure that. Okay, nobody has told me that they can't hear you. So, hey, what's up? I am not this person. If you're not this person, then who are you?
You got reading rap in there. It's like, do I got to come back in there and kick some ass real quick?
Yeah, for whatever reason, my window capture doesn't want to capture Discord today, but I'm not surprised. It's fine. I have a strategy. Bing, bing, bing. Look, everybody, it's Globus. Yay.
Hi, everyone. I'm talking to you from the future.
That's actually not that far off.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's up? Nice satellite, by the way.
Thank you. I did it all myself.
Nice, hand-built, handmade.
Yeah. So, when I popped into your stream earlier, it sounded like you... pause. Why don't you say hi to everybody and introduce yourself and all that other good Twitch stuff?
Hi, everybody. I'm Levelhead. I'm a reporter in Northwest Colorado. I'm seeing KegW's in my chat. I do a lot of co-working streams where we all focus on our work. I also do a lot of very not focused streams. I do investigative journalism currently, hopefully about to get put on a big like oil and gas fracking investigation story. I've been really focused on a lot of environmental investigation. I've also done some like local government stuff. Generally, I'm just week to week guaranteed. If nothing else, I'll cover like a county government story, which I did last week, and I wound up stumbling on this big, basically like toxic spill contamination site that has been around since 1995. So it's almost as old as me, a little bit younger, but and yeah, and then and then I also have like kind of an interesting history to some of like my dad was a pastor in a fundamentalist evangelical prosperity gospel cult, and so sometimes we talk about that stuff too. But we're pretty all over the board here. But the one thing that we might do is co-working streams.
Yeah.
Because if I can't prepare anything else, I can always turn on a timer and let you look at my face while I get work done, theoretically.
Yeah, and like I like the idea. I've liked the idea of the co-working stream since way back. Like you and Supernatural Writer and Cryptid Mage. We kind of get to hang out, listen to some music, and then you come back in and we chat a little bit and maybe talk about something that's going on and then go back to doing work. So it kind of breaks up like the monotony of having to work, on a consistent basis, that kind of thing. It's nice. Getting little breaks in there is really nice. So I like co-working streams.
Yeah. And I had to start doing it because like I started streaming, but I needed something to like hold me accountable to work, basically, because otherwise I'd just fuck around on Twitch all day. And the more I fuck around, the more people come into my stream.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a bad incentive for getting work done.
Right.
So I just was like, well, I'll just do this. And I know that there are other people who like would watch my content on a regular basis that also need to work in the day. So like I kind of get both audiences, people who are they do need to work in the day, but they're also here for the like political content coverage and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or to get you wound up about audio.
Yeah, or in front of me because apparently I'm so attracted to Lauren Boebert.
It's okay. It's okay. You can save her. I believe in you. And you're also a drummer.
On that record. Yeah. No, I'm a drummer. And I'm gonna have band practice this week actually on Thursday, which I need it for like therapy. I need to hit things with a stick. Two sticks, in fact.
2 sticks. So you have two intersections of where AI is potentially impacting your future. And when I came into your stream earlier, it sounded like you had looked into some things, and I kind of detected notes of excitement about it. So why don't you tell me how you feel right now about AI and journalism?
Yeah. I might have questions for you too. Like I might like
Absolutely.
have questions about a broad, like broadly what's happening with AI. I don't know because I haven't been to be fair, I haven't been paying attention to a lot of things. I've kind of been just out of it in general. I think it's depression is part of it. Like I've been very like lost in my own little world for like what feels like a long time, to the point where like when I started looking into the AI stuff, I was like, I used to be super interested in this subject and I know nothing about what's going on with it right now. So I did start looking into it, but like most of the things I find are revolving around the discussion of AI art, right? Because like there was the big story with the art that won the state fair like art competition, and it had been AI generated. And there's been all of these sort of like high profile, big headline things that have taken place relating to AI art specifically. I guess my other recent exposure to it was like I was watching Seventh Irreverent stream recently, and he was using an AI to like write some story. I can't remember what it was about, and that was interesting to watch. But I hadn't really considered like what you asked me, which or what I guess was sort of implied when you asked me or said you wanted to talk about journalism and AI, which was whether or not like an AI like the Chat GPT or these open AI things could write a news article. And at first I was like, no. But then it really didn't take me very long to be like, actually, I feel like they probably kind of could. They would still require editing, but like I'm a human and my stuff still requires editing, So I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, I don't really know. Like, I don't really know where I'm at on that. I still think that like the reason I don't know is because I don't know like what these things are capable of. Like, if I were to put a county meeting's transcript of like a 3-hour meeting into the AI, would it be able to spit out an article of everything that happened in that meeting? Would it be able to pick like, I mean, it probably could, right? It could probably write like a 3,000 word article, and then I could just pick the things that I want and then fix any edits or like places where it made mistakes, which to me, that's a good thing because that's the slog work that we have to do just to like hold the government accountable. You know what I mean? Like if we want to hold the county government accountable, I have to sit through a 3-hour meeting. I have to listen to every word they say. I have to like decide like, this is newsworthy, this is newsworthy, this is newsworthy. This is the shit that people actually might need to know. And then I have to write an article. And that's what we're doing every week, all week. And I don't have time to go investigate for 3 weeks on some big oil spill thing. You know what I mean? Because like I'm just stuck doing this sort of like what almost already is robotic technical work. So like I just feel like if there was an AI that could at least assist with some of that process, because a lot of that writing is technical writing, and like I feel like an AI could effectively do technical writing with some human assistance. And I don't really see that as like an issue for me. You know what I mean? Like I do see broadly the issue of like AI displacing people's jobs as an issue, but only because of the way our economic system works, in that like any benefits garnered from
13
AI.
minutes into the conversation, and spoiler alert, the problem is capitalism. We've done that on every single, like eventually, usually pretty quickly, we get to the concept that the problem is the economic system not being able to support people who aren't, working, right? Like that's really what it comes down to. But I mean, it sounds like, if I'm interpreting what you're saying correctly, is like that there is a whole, that the AI would function best for you as a reporter in an information kind of like, I don't want to say aggregate, but like to like go through this information to be able to put it into a different format where you can more effectively use it, rather than actually being able to replace, like the journal and allow you to do the journalism of investigating this oil spill. Like, let's look at last week. You were looking at all these different forms that were related to, these oil spills and all these incidents that had happened. And if you could have outsourced that to a computer and let it do all the slog work, and then you're just able to query the computer, it would have been a much more efficient process, right?
Yeah, or and I've thought about doing that, like, for to some extent. There's already some level of that you can do. Like, if you're trying to look through 1,000 documents and they're all emails, for example, if you can get them all into like if they're all recognized as a digital text, then yeah, you could even just being able to Control F and search that. Like, a really good AI would be better at like doing OCR, for example, like actually taking old newspapers, for example. Like if you were trying to do a historical analysis of something, an AI would be better at doing OCR. Like I can't remember what that stands for. Optical something. It's where it scans, printed text and turns it into something that you can actually like copy and paste or Control F search. So that would be like definitely assist in the process. But I guess if with like the type of AI we're talking about now, it probably goes even deeper than that, right? Like being able to actually say, show me instances of them talking about, this subject in this context. Like you could probably query an AI to that level, especially since it can do like, it can literally generate images from nothing by just you telling. I mean, I guess it's still using prompts or, it's getting other images from the internet. So, yeah, I think what I was getting to is like, I would still want to, on the investigative stuff for the oil spills, I would still want to, like look at every document myself and break it down myself and really like look through and make sure it's all the same. But like, if it was just like, tomorrow there's going to be a county commissioner meeting and I could go look at the agenda, but off the top of my head, they're probably going to pass a memorandum of understanding with whoever the fuck .inc for $74,383 for resurfacing of this fucking blah, 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 blah. And somebody's going to be like, we had to do this because, one of the commissioners will be like, we had to do this because we tried to do it last year and it didn't work out because the funds were misappropriated, blah, 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 blah. And that's all. That is the slog work that I'm talking about, is that like, I just have to go listen to everything they say and like write it all into an article about everything that happened during the meeting. And like, there are some things that I wouldn't want to trust the AI to do. Like, but even if all it did was like write all of the sort of narrative pieces out for me and I could just go pick and choose, like, and I could sort of curate it after the fact, then yes, that would save me a lot of time. And it might save me a lot of time just because like, why would I use my human brain to think of a whole ass paragraph when it's generally always the same structures of paragraphs? Like it's a technical writing to some extent. If the computer will just do it for me, like how is that, like if, but like that only for specific types of reporting. Like if I was doing a feature story where I went and I interviewed somebody, I mean, I guess it's hard to theorize about because I don't know, like, let's say I want to do a feature story about, like I did one recently about a guy who opened a bike shop here, and I wanted to ask him, I asked him about like how did you start fixing bikes, and like, what are like when's your busy season, and what kind of things do you commonly fix?
And
fed that to an AI, would it just be able to write a story about this person?
I think we both had a little glitch, or maybe we just had one on my end, but it looks like we're good now.
Okay.
Yeah, so what you're saying there is that, like you would, at points of human-to-human contact, especially like individual contact, you need the human for that. You don't want to send the AI to ask the guy a bunch of form questions and then try to build a story about that. You want to, when you're dealing with human elements you want to have that human to human contact, would you say that you could then take all that information, then give it to the AI, have the AI construct a news story that is like maybe in excess of, and then just edit it down to what you needed?
Yes, exactly. Because especially, and that would probably be that example of a feature story with another human where I'm actually trying to like, I am sort of doing more of the creative writing and I'm doing more of a narrative. That's where I would be the most hesitant to do something like that. Where I would be the least hesitant would be on, again, like I went to a meeting, they talked about A, B, C, D, E, F, G. This is what everybody said, like a whole transcript. And I fed the AI that information. I could even select, because I already do this. Like if you've ever watched my whole reporting process, like for a meeting from step one all the way to the end, it starts with me listening to the meeting. And now I'm at the point now I actually use Otter.ai, which is a voice recognition AI, I guess, to transcribe the whole meeting. Then I take from that transcript, or even if I'm not transcribing it in that way, because I don't know, I feel like sometimes I wonder if it makes more work for me. I'll, at the very least, I'll listen to the whole meeting and I'll write down every part of it that's relevant. So I'll end up with a huge document full of information that I feel like is relevant to the story. Then I'll review it again to be like, these are the quotes that I want to include. And then I'll sort of like re-summarize it into bullet points of like, these are all the points I want to get across. These are the specific quotes that I'm going to use to like get to those points in my outline. And then I have to sit down and write it. So like on point 1, this week the commissioners talked about water rights with person. And, then I have to get through all of my points. I feel like if I were to feed, like if I fed it the entire transcript, it probably wouldn't know how to like categorize which information is newsworthy or whatever. But if I were to give it like, if I were to give it that second step of the process where I've actively curated from my notes into like, these are the most important points, and then said, now construct this, then like, that would just be so much brain power that I wouldn't have to use. But would it be the same amount? Like me rereading through it and saying, okay, at that point it would basically be like as if I was an editor though, and a journalist had submitted a story to me, and I had to read it and make sure it made sense, and be like, oh, you need to include another quote here about this, or this part didn't make sense, rewrite it. Like, I feel like. And this is with me knowing, again, very little about like the types of parameters that you can put into these. But even with what we have now, like with further advancement, it seems like some parts of that process could be automated. And if it's for something that is literally just reporting on a meeting, the only reason we're reporting on that meeting is because the government officials need to know that we listened to what they said. We wrote down what they said. We wrote down where they spent money, so that next week when they have a meeting, they know that we're also going to be listening to what they say, and we're going to be reporting on the money they spent. And, every so often, a bunch of like gray-haired old ladies will show up to yell at the commissioners, and that's when shit actually gets done. And usually it's because they read a newspaper article where we said the county's spending, however much on this and cutting this much from the senior nutrition program, blah, blah, blah. So like, that's why I think that like, it's sort of technical and repetitive enough in the way that the process works for those specific types of stories that like, I don't think an AI could do the entire job, but it could definitely function as a tool to basically allow us to output more, more reporting in theory. But then again, the process of editing the AI's stuff might just create like, it might cancel out in terms of the amount of work. And you might also like, I might think that I write in a way that is technical and the same all the time. But then again, like if an AI wrote it, it would probably lose some elements of like my voice that I'm not even aware of being in my writing, if that makes sense.
It does. One of the things that we talk about, or we have talked about, is where does the human element come in a particular piece of art? Like, I have used the idea of if you had sufficient, like, and we make a ton of allowances around this because, like, AI, where it is today, is not the same as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's continued to advance. It will continue to advance. So we can speculate in general, like, where it's going without getting too specific. But if you created a piece of art and the AI, through a sufficient number of iterations, was able to generate the exact same piece of art, independent of you, at what point does the human factor come in order to determine which one is, like, how would you tell which one the human made and which one the AI made? And in theory, like, if you had sufficient articles to draw from, the computer could learn what your speaking style is, and at least theoretically, generate that same style, right?
Yeah. Yep. For sure. I mean, yeah, because it can do that for art. Like, it could, from what I've learned, it can, you can ask it to make a painting in the style of blah, name an artist, and it'll do it. So, I mean, in theory, you could say, write an article in this person's voice, and it could do it.
Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily about what we can do with it today, though. Based on what I've seen, I plan tomorrow to actively use ChatGPT on stream so that chat can see what it does and like that. I might also do Midjourney tomorrow. I might do Midjourney on Thursday. I'm still trying to get people in to do interviews and make sure voices are heard. And currently those 2 days are open. But from what I've seen ChatGPT being capable of doing, is one of the things is, like, I'm adjacent to the therapist field. My wife and other friends, and, like, my wife sent me a TikTok of this therapist who ran the information through ChatGPT in some format. They didn't show it. But it was able to put out an action plan for therapy that was well done, right? And part of that is going to be related to, asking the right questions and everything else. But I feel like that, especially in the aspect of technical writing, like you're saying, and where, like, the function of the journalist in relation to that meeting is to, serve as a watcher and a recorder, and so that everything is there in the record. And I feel like that's one of those things that AI is kind of like, made for, in the same way of, like, bookkeeping and things like that,
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of, it makes me think about, like, the self-driving car thing, right? Where, up to this point, there hasn't been, despite promises from genius billionaires, we haven't had, like, a sufficient self-driving car that could, like, you can really trust. And, like, I don't know, even if whatever we could get to that point, we still probably as humans just inherently wouldn't trust it, or maybe it would take a lot for us to get to that point. But there's that concept of, like, the car can drive itself, but, like, there's probably always going to be a situation where, like, you would rather take over, you know what I mean? And, like, get through that, so, like, navigate that sort of situation because it was weird, or it required, like, split-second decision making or whatever. And I would say that it would be the same thing even in, like, a county meeting where, like, it could function as a tool and it could write certain parts, but there would also be parts where, like, I would think, no, this is this is too important. I want to write it. But I guess it would really come down to the proof is in the pudding. Like, if the AI wrote, if I listen to a section of the meeting and the AI wrote a paragraph or a section on it, and I was like, wow, the AI did a great job. It summarized it perfectly. Then I would be like, okay, well then it's good. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess it would really come down to like, just like with art, it's like if you see the art and you can tell it's AI generated, then that's your proof. I don't know. I guess I don't really know what it proves other than that you can like tell the difference. I wonder about that though too, because I do art too. Like, so my background, the lines, like that's all hand drawn by me. So like, yeah, like if I go, that's just my art right there. Like that's all drawn pencil, and then I scanned it in and like, vectorized it and everything. And I do a lot of that type of art. I was kind of thinking like, hey, I bet AI could do this pretty easily. But like, so I wonder about that. I'm like, does that, like, if AI did it, would it look like mine? You know what I mean? Like, would it, like, I feel like because it's my art, I would be able to be like, I guess I would know if I had drawn it or not. I could probably remember. But like, it just makes me like, if somebody else who was super familiar with my art, maybe would they be able to tell the difference?
And
I don't know.
It starts to fall into the category of like, let's say I was really good at art, in your style, right? Like I could really good with the pencil and in those tight lines and geometric figures, and I was able to mimic your style as a human being to a sufficient degree. Then, like that's we as humans say that's okay, and I would, if I was classy, credit you as an influence. It happens a lot in music, right? I was influenced by these bands, those bands were influenced by those bands, so on and so forth. Where with the AI, like, is there a fundamental difference between the AI being influenced by Levelhead and Globus being influenced by Levelhead?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't like. I feel like maybe I guess it kind of depends, because like, what if the AI's replication is like all like nearly the same thing? Or what if Globus, like, what if one of them is significantly more like is similar? Like it looks, because other people have been influenced by my art before. I've seen people and they try to draw what I draw, and they end up drawing something like similar but like way different, and it becomes their own style. I guess I wonder, like that's kind of what would happen with. That kind of is what is happening with AI art, right? It's not like they're actually duplicating people's, but like it's hard to even say, like, can you even, if you're making a new piece of art in a certain style, it's not like you're ever duplicating it because it's a new piece of art, right? It's always going to be new. So I don't know. I think something that Jenny said in my chat too, which is interesting. Hi BD Streams. I think a lot of people forget that AI is machine learning. Operators are running it and teaching the software what to do. And that reminds me of a thought that I had, which was, thinking about like, because I used to have these arguments with my brother about like whether electronic music was like, or whether electronic music was music, or like whether or not people who make electronic music are musicians. And I was always like, yes. And he was like, no, they're not, because they don't play an instrument. And I was like, but a computer is an instrument. And then like I went, like Dictionary Andy, and I was like, what's the definition of instrument? And I was like, yes, a computer is an instrument. I mean, you could literally map the keys to be a keyboard and play it like that, or you could click them all out in a whatever. Like it's used in a different way. I guess like to some extent you're more of like, if you're clicking out your piano role or whatever, then you're like sort of more composing. You're more of a composer rather than like a live musician. But like it seems like I don't know. So anyways, what it made me think about is like people will say, you know, because we're gonna get AI generated music and stuff, or I'm sure it already exists. I don't really know. Like, and I think one of the things that's interesting to me is people being like, it's not art, right? It's not art if an AI made it. And one of my things that I think is like, well, what about the people who made the AI? Like, are they not artists? Because like I have a little bit of a coding background too, like not super extensive, but you know, I wanted to study computer science, and like a lot of what I do as a creative person who is also very technical, like I'm into computers and the technology side of things, I kind of feel like there's kind of a misunderstanding of technical fields as them being separate from creative fields. And I don't agree with that. I think that like people who write code are creatives, and I think that people who build computers are creatives, like, or even like electrical engineers. Like if you're designing a circuit board, or if you're designing a circuit, if you're designing any of these, like if you're designing a technical system, if you're designing a server rack, or if you're designing like a live broadcasting setup, like you're also being very artistic and creative in my experience, or that's how I feel about it. So I would say the same thing about AI is like, or AI art, is that like the people who built these machines, like the systems, and who continue to like input parameters into them or tweak them or change the way they work, or deciding what sort of information you input into it. Like, I think that's an artistic process too, if that makes sense.
It does. In what I thought of is we admire the technical ability of a person playing a violin in like you know, a soloist in a symphony kind of thing, but we rarely take time to appreciate the technical ability of the person who set up the sound for that symphony, you know. And they're both important to the exact same process,
and they're both creative. Like yeah, if you're doing, it's kind of, that is an interesting thing, like a live sound engineer, you know, they do it different ways. They use different mics. They use different, some of them use certain inputs on the board and others don't, depending on, they'll use their EQ in different ways. They'll group inputs and outputs in different ways. And like that, I mean, I guess to some extent, it's like you have to follow certain rules in order to like do sound engineering in a good way. You know, you have to understand like gain before feedback and some of these like technical things. But you could say the same thing about art too. I mean, like, really, I mean, you could. Maybe there are not as many rules, because, you know, I've been to the Aspen Art Museum where it's all modern art. And, you know, it's literally fucking, like, it's all things that make a statement. Some of them are cool, like, but I've talked about it before, like, they would have like, I remember going once and they had like a flat screen TV, you know, like 40-inch flat screen TV flipped on its side with like a couple like paint things smeared on it. But the TV was on, but they like used some kind of acrylic paint and just like smeared it on the screen. And then it was like the blue TV screen in the background. And they were like, oh, so amazing.
Right. And to one, this is the one person's art is another person's, you know, garbage kind of thing, which the act of creation, one of the definitions that has been put forth through these discussions is that the act of creation is what makes it art. And while I get what you're saying regarding the rules, but one of my things is you only need to learn the rules to know how to break them properly in order to produce the outcome that you want. Like, if you have a violin, you're supposed to do the bow in just such a way and fingering in just such a way, but once you're skilled enough, then you break those rules in order to create something different. And like you're saying, it's like there are rules there are rules regarding setting up the soundboard, but you can also break those rules if you need a particular effect, right?
Yeah.
And I think that goes to your point, is like, that there are people who make the AI, and the AI is integral in that process of creating new art, by intaking a bunch of influences based on the desires of the person giving it the prompt, and then it comes back with a bunch of things. And personally, all my issues come down to the ethical nature of taking care of people under capitalism. And as my friend Zilla said on Saturday, is like, we shouldn't teach the AI to suffer, right? Like, that shouldn't be a thing.
Oh no. Hold on. I've prepared for just this moment. Except I didn't prepare by bringing a cord. I just have 3 batteries that are constantly charging. Okay.
Kids today don't understand. Like, I had my Motorola StarTech flip phone. I had multiple batteries for it, and I had the one in the phone and then others on the charger, and I never ran out of power. I would just swap it out.
You could take your battery out to avoid the government tracking. Now you can't. They kept it in there. But yeah, I mean, like, to get your phone to stop misbehaving, like, pull the battery out.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it's just like, what do I do? Smash it?
Right. Turn it off, turn it back on again, and hope for the best.
That's what we should have done. And then maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation about AI art. Maybe if we had all smashed our phones, Globus.
That's true. That is true. Had we smashed our phones, we would definitely not be talking about AI art.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I mean, I do think it's all art and whatever. Like, there's a clip of me, and it's like it's an Entroma clip. It's titled "Stereotypical British Overlord Runs Out of Fucks," which is a long name for a clip. But it got clipped when I was like, somebody asked me, I was about the whole like, what is art discussion, and I pretty much had just had that conversation a lot prior to that, and so I basically was like, yeah, like I've had this conversation so many times, and whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, because I used to get annoyed about the Aspen art thing. I used to get annoyed that, like, you go in there and it's just somebody tore the top of a hoodie off and then nailed it to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then the friend I was with was like, bro, this is genius. And he was also a huge Kanye fan, by the way, if that tells you anything. But which I didn't understand at the time. I wonder what he thinks about him now. But he thought the ripped off hoodie nailed to the wall was like so groundbreaking, and I was just like, I prefer the painting where the guy put his dick in paint and then slapped it on the canvas. I think that's more artistic than the ripped off hoodie. But I mean, that's what art is, What if it speaks to you?
Right, and one of the arguments is that it's contextual. Like, the more you know about a particular piece of art, the more you can appreciate aspects of it, which is 100% counter to my art, right? Like, now one of the things that I have to do is like occasionally create like a Tumblr, right? And then I'm start putting on logos and somebody's name and everything else like that. And I force my way through it because you need that
I knew
money.
You were a Tumblr user.
But for me, that I hate that, right? Like, what I want to do is I want to create a piece of art, whether it be on a Tumblr, whether it be on a canvas, and I want to put so little context within it to allow you to draw whatever context that you want out of it. And I don't know where that puts me in this contextual art conversation. But I guess that's
I think that another aspect to consider, there's one where like, you know, like Maku said in my chat, AI is art, and that's kind of what I was getting at too. Like the AI itself is art, but I think from the perspective of like people, there are going to be people who are better at getting cool shit out of the AI than other people. You know what I mean? Like, and like that process, like prompting the AI itself can be like an artistic process, or even like, you know, getting something out of it that you then use to develop further art. And I think that like you can look at it as like this is going to replace, you know, like I heard somebody talking about how it could replace like storyboard artists or like people who do concept art, or like if you're the kind of artist who does like concept art for video games, like maybe they commission you for like 30 images of concept art, and they take your 30 images, they pay you for them, and then they use those to generate like 300 more, right? And then that's what they're using for their concept art. Like I can see that as being a legitimate problem, which again is more of a like structural societal problem relating to the the fact that the problem is capitalism, right? Like that's kind of a separate. It's kind of its separate issue. But then again, like, and I see where people could be doom and gloom about that, but I also would note that like the fact that you can use AI to generate pieces of art, and art, you know, art can be made up of multiple different generated things. So like somebody who may not have been able to produce art because like maybe they never could learn to draw. I can't draw. I mean, I could draw lines, but like I can't draw a person or whatever. I mean, I could learn, but like but I can edit video. So maybe I could now use AI to generate some illustrated stuff that I could incorporate into my edited video. And then like now all of a sudden, like there can be a whole new explosion of creativity from people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to generate like, you know, the various components of their art that they sort of collage together, if that makes sense.
It does. And one of the positions that I've taken within the greater conversation discourse is how this AI art thing does provide a greater access to people who want to create, but for whatever reason, whether it's time, effort, they're 50 years old and didn't start drawing with pencils early enough, they are physically incapable, what have you. Whatever circumstance prevents them from like creating pencil art, now they kind of have access to that. And overall, to me, that sounds like it should be a good thing, that more people can produce their own art, and therefore we get more art with which to interact with, and then also, synthesize into other new art, right?
Sorry, can you say that again? I got interrupted. I just got handed some books, okay? They're probably written by an AI.
Do they have CRT in them? Because that's how you can tell if it's the woke mob or the AI.
Oh, they definitely do. This one is called Families Belong. And this one is called Goodnight Numbers. Sounds like communism.
Sounds like communism. What I was saying was that for the people who, for whatever reason, right? All the reasons, take all the reasons, put them in this bag. For those people who could not generate pencil art, they now have a tool that they can interact with in order to produce that type of art. And this, in general, should be seen as a good thing because it will provide us with more art and it will provide us with more synthesis as we interact with their creative visions and create our own art.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at, I think. And you could look at it for like a stream, for example, right? This stream, my stream, your stream, it's all made up of multiple pieces of art. Like my art, there's the various different like technical components that are related to it. But then, what we build in OBS, the sound clips that we build or that other people build, the GIFs and the GIFs, I'm GIF neutral. I'm non-binary on the pronunciation question. Okay, so don't get mad. But all of these things like combine together to make a stream. And like, yeah, if I'm trying to make a stream and I want a background for my green screen shit, and I just want to generate a space background with whatever, or like a throne on an alien planet that I'm sitting on. Like, I could go, I could go get an artist to do it. And ideally, if I had the money, I would just go pay for that. But what if I don't? I could just not have it, or I could just go get it from an AI.
Right. And that is one of the things is like there is, if you want a piece of art, it is to a certain extent because we live under a capitalism, it's gate kept behind that. And it's not, it's not a judgment thing. It's like, yes, that artist needs to eat. But am I not, as a poor person, entitled to access to art, right? Whether it's created by my own hand, using AI, or whether I just type a bunch of shit in there and get something from the AI. Like I should be able to do that. It does run up against all the ethical concerns about who the AI is sampling from. But this is the thing that I've loved about this discussion is it has a component of art and artificial intelligence, but it impacts the whole concept behind AI is interacting with all these other aspects of life, society, economics, all these different things because of how we interact with the AI and the AI interacts with our systems.
Yeah, which is also kind of scary because, like if AI is modeling us, which is scary because we're scary, like
yeah, we're angry monkeys with anxiety. It's definitely scary.
It from not just doing the worst shit that we do, and I feel like we can't, because it's like our creation that we can birth into like existence, and already have. I guess it's kind of not like you can't really turn back the clock on it. So, and we've seen examples of this, right? Like we've seen examples of chatbots going Nazi and shit real quick.
And this is right directly related to that. Is a question that I asked of chat a while back is like, if this AI is generating Nazi shit, right? Is it our obligation as people of, let's say, a more empathetic, leftist, what have you, whatever words you need.
Nazis.
What's that?
We don't like Nazis.
Right. Anyone of that bent to participate with the AI in order to give it the alternative, because that's how we teach children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when a child walks up and punches another child, we don't just say, don't do that and smack them, right? Some
We
people
don't-
do, and we don't like
Are you
those
saying
people.
I shouldn't discipline my child by kicking him into the Sparta hole? Like, on with you.
Well, that will produce specific outcomes, right? So, do we have an obligation to get into to actively participate with these things? Because a lot of ethical leftists like to get on their horse and tell us all that we should not do that. But if we are not doing that and the thing is going to run anyway, aren't we abdicating it to that kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the whole. I mean, it's the same discussion as that's whether or not we should participate on Twitch or whatever as well. Like, there are probably ethical downside. I mean, part of this is there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, and but people are being exploited right now by us being on stream.
Right.
Like, there's all the technology components and blah 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 blah, but that we also shouldn't be ceding ground to the bad actors in spaces. So yeah, I don't know if there's really an answer to that question, but it seems pretty clear cut with AI. Because the only other option would be well, this just shouldn't exist, which to me is actually a reactionary perspective of well, because either you're going to say AI, we just shouldn't be we should just stop, we should pump the brakes, stop. That's reactionary to me. It seems like the definition of reactionary, whereas instead of that, you should say, well, we can't stop it, just like we can't stop immigration and shouldn't. What we should do is facilitate it to create the best possible outcomes, as opposed to, just being scared idiots and making it worse.
Right. It is our obligation to participate in the things to the best of our ability to produce the most ethical and empathetic outcomes.
Yeah. And we have to participate in that way. But I mean, you could make the same argument for electoral politics, but you know how people get about that.
Yeah.
Which I understand why, because fuck,
Sure.
it's hard out here. It's annoying, and it sucks not ever seeing any progress and taking 2 steps forward and a bajillion steps back, or whatever your perspective is. So
I wonder, it would require somebody actually doing a series of analyses over data sets and whatnot. But I would be fascinated to see if you could quantify all the things, and from the beginning of history, politics, time, wherever you want to start from, to this moment now, if there's actually a trend in a particular direction. Is the world nicer, for a given value of nicer, today than it was 2,000 years ago?
Mhm. Well, there was probably more, violent, just murder, but there was also less microplastics in your bloodstream. So
Right.
there's always a give and take, right?
Mhm.
With that kind of shit. That's the way it is with AI too, or whatever type of technological advancements. I think that this is something that I was going to say earlier, that I was thinking about earlier, is on the subject of displacing people's jobs, or even displacing ways of life that we currently maybe like or don't like. It still isn't a good argument, just because I often make fun of people where I'm from who have signs in their yard that say coal, it keeps our lights on.
Mhm.
That's all the sign says.
Right.
I always laugh about that, and I'm like, well, motherfucker, are you still using a candle in your house, or do you use the fucking light switch? when the light bulb was invented, like y'all would have been the people with the yard signs saying like, candles light our houses. Like, yeah, but we have light bulbs now.
Right.
Like, you can fucking move on, you can advance, but like people don't, it's really hard if it's affecting you directly. Especially because of capitalism, though, because people never think of anything as, because everything's a zero-sum game. Like, people don't think of it as like, oh, I don't have to mine the coal anymore. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. We could have wind energy. Wow. Like, that's going to be great for me to reap the benefits of that. That's not the way it works. The way it works is like, I'm going to get fucked over. And that's the end of the story, because it's true. Like, because there isn't a, even distribution of like the benefits of technological advancement. It's just, you get fucked. So
Right.
I guess that's the other part of it, is like, not only do we have to make sure the AI is like not developing in a bad way, which seems nearly impossible to me, but like, because humans are humans, but like, we also have to continue advocating for the dismantling of capitalism, because otherwise it's going to be the same shit. But it is going to be the same shit though, ultimately, if I'm being as realistic, or the way I actually feel about it is just going to be like 10 years from now, we're going to have some super advanced AI that can really improve people's lives in all these amazing ways. And there's all these practical applications of it. And there's going to be a whole host of people whose entire political advocacy is dedicated towards how, like, that's Satanism, it's the mark of the beast, blah, blah, blah. And that's the way it's going to, like, that's how it's just going to be. So, but I don't know.
Excuse me. One of the things that came to my mind. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. We've gone an hour. Do you still have time?
I got a few more minutes.
Okay. One of the things that came to my mind was how, like, okay, we got our billionaire oligarch who runs, the Amazon, and they produce Amazon
Not
socks.
Hashtag not my billionaire.
Hashtag not my billionaire. But if you have enough people who can't afford Amazon socks anymore, no matter how cheap they become, then eventually it doesn't make sense for Amazon to produce the Amazon socks. So eventually, like, a large enough group of people being unemployed begins to affect the power of the billionaire, right? So sufficient automation on a far enough timeline, sufficient enough automation excuse me, and sufficient enough people being put out of work is eventually going to erode the power base that that the billionaires have. So AI is not simply a concern for poor people who are actively put out of work, but for the erosion of those power bases on which our current, feudalistic structure exists. Do you see what I'm going with that?
I think so. I think that, like, yeah, I mean, you could make that argument, except that, I mean, you can make the argument that, like, capitalism eats itself, because as lesson, like, I was saying this the other day, actually, like, as that tension grows, and the tension is fucking palpable, like, the tension right now between the people who have all the shit and the people who are just trying to survive, basically, like, that tension is already insane. Like, if you look at it by numbers, it's historically the biggest it's ever been, as far as like wealth disparity and everything. And like, you could argue that there have been ways for capitalists to continue, or to let the pressure off, like giving people, that's why we have, like, as far as I understand it, and I'm not a economic surgeon, right? I'm not a math surgeon, but the way that I understand it is, like, that's part of why we have a debt economy, is because people can't legitimately afford stuff. They can't afford houses. They can't afford cars. They can't afford, like, these bigger purchases. So like the only way to get that now is through our like credit system and debt. But that can probably only last so long. I don't know though. Like once you get into this territory, and maybe AI could like push it through to the point where like there is literally no way to continue maintaining this distribution of resources without. I guess I just feel like I don't like. Are we heading towards just complete destabilization, Globus, because of this? Not just because of AI, but I mean like all of these combined factors. Like as this tension gets more and more, like aren't people just gonna fucking like rise up and like that? I don't mean that in like a inspirational way. I'm not like rise up, fucking proletariat. I'm talking about like what it actually means, which is like devastation and starvation and all the bullshit. Like, but do we have to go through a period of history like that to basically get to the point where we can sort of like reorganize and redistribute? Historically, have we had to? It kind of seems like we have.
I mean,
but I don't know.
Historically, yes. The advantage of history is that both power and people can learn from it. I feel like, again, on a sufficiently long enough timeline, assuming that we can get to that point, that the AI would tell you that your desires are incompatible, right? Mm-hmm. Like whoever asked the question, like, I'm Mr. Billionaire and social website owner, and I also want everyone to love me. Your desires are incompatible. And this is something that I feel like, unless they are prioritizing, which they absolutely could be, but if they actually want these things, then someone needs to tell them that. And it's possible that AI could, because AI is a computer. There's a video that I'm going to need to track down in which Ben Shapiro is talking to ChatGPT about like something along the lines of like why traditional marriage is best, and ChatGPT was like, data says not so much, right? Uh-huh. Like and that moment was very inspiring for me, because it was like, at least at this point in time, ChatGPT is not burdened with your bullshit. It doesn't have that ideological bent to it. It is going to give you information based on the data, and the data says you're wrong, man. Go ahead.
Does it? Like, because of the way it's created, right? Like the parameters and the people who created it and like how it analyzes information. Like, how do we determine? I see what you're saying though, which is that like if I were to ask a person, what do you think about whatever subject, traditional marriage, they could be like, well, I think it's good because of this, or I think it's bad because of this. But if I ask an AI and they give me like an identical answer to either of those people, like I would probably look at the answer differently from the AI than I would from a person. Because from the people, I'd be thinking like, well, they're basing that off of their life experience and personal bias, whereas the robot, like, or the AI doesn't have that. All the AI has is inputs from all of this information, probably significantly more information than these other people are working from, other than, again, their personal experience, which can be like, is completely subjective. So I do think that's an interesting consideration.
Yeah, a friend of mine once told me that like a human being lacks the time and capacity to actually be an informed voter, and that at a certain point you just have to make a judgment. And the AI, because of the speed at which it can process things, is unburdened by that, to an extent.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing that I was thinking about, based on what you said about it's sort of like breaking this hierarchical or like feudalistic structure, I could see it being, if you're looking at it as like a means of production, especially if you combine AI with other advancements that are sort of like getting to be very advanced, like 3D printing, or being able, I mean, there's the breakthrough with fusion or fission, fusion. Yeah, there's the breakthrough with that, and the potential for, you know, limitless energy generation, and like the other one that I was thinking of, I guess, would just be like with 3D printing, being able to feed, like being able to have like various types of feedstock. Like there's a book I read by Cory Doctorow. It's called Walk Away, and it's about this group of people who like have left regular society and they live in some like, you know, wasteland, abandoned area of the earth. But in that book, you know, it's in the future, and like one of the things they go out and do is like harvest feedstock for their 3D printers, because they're basically, their 3D printers are so advanced they can make anything basically. And like in that, you know, they live in basically this like anarchist commune sort of situation, where it's all free association and blah blah blah. But like the reason they're enabled to do that is because of the fact that, you know, they have these tools like AI and like these super advanced 3D printers and this like power generation that doesn't require a centralized like power station and all of that stuff. That's what allows them to like actually separate from the broader, you know, like oppressive economic structure. So I could see like it, to some extent, if it can be, you know, accessible to everyone, then it being, you know, able to allow people to participate and like feed themselves, I guess you could say, without having to rely on like, you know, like I don't know. It's just like kind of what we were talking about earlier, like the ability to make art without having to go through multiple years of potentially like learning how to illustrate, or other types of, you know, like you could make music that could potentially make you money, you like utilizing AI as a tool. Whereas like in the, I mean, if we take a step back from AI to just like digital music production, I remember when I recorded my first album with my band, and my drums were all live tracked, and then I talked to the other drummers in this other band, and I realized that like all of his drums were programmed, and then he learned how to play them afterwards.
Over and over again every day.
And
Pepe's
like,
mail's getting sent back to me.
that used to bother me, but then I realized that like
Pepe Sylvia.
that allows people who maybe they don't have a drummer. I mean, it just allows a lot more music to be created that couldn't otherwise be created, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So
yeah, and it's, I mean, what we all like generally are looking for is, you know, the fully automated luxury gay space communism, right? Like,
of course,
you know, the replicator. The replicator is the device that allows them to do that, because it takes things that are one thing and makes them another thing, and therefore you can eliminate scarcity, and things like that. So, I mean, if we can do it, then, and with like 3D printing, like you can buy a 3D printer. I have bought 3D printer, the resin type and like that. But my friend, I got a friend, Toast, he does 3D printing, and like he just keeps building new 3D printers, right? Like he gets the parts, he programs, he's like cracked out on it, and he is doing that all the time.
I would get addicted to that too. He's printing the parts to make new 3D printers, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain metal parts that have to be manufactured, but he's got one of those things now too.
Now, right? Like, yeah, maybe like if he gets a CNC machine or whatever, he could probably do that.
He got one, and like that. I'm not gonna. There was something I was gonna say, but you wouldn't get it, and no one else would, so I'm just gonna leave it. The point is that, like, while you could have gate kept things like digital music versus analog music, like, you know, the guitar versus the electric guitar to a certain extent, the whole 3D printing, AI, all that kind of stuff, because it's code, because it's capable of like this underground production aspect to it, I think that's out of the box. And even if like authorities were to say no more of this, none, people are still going to do it. I mean, you use OBS, I use OBS. This is free, like free. Someone made this, right? There's no reason for them to make this and it be free other than they wanted to.
Yeah.
And this is part of what gives me a lot of hope around the whole AI and 3D printing aspect of everything. Is it's similar to that, is that there are people who specifically just want to. There's something about that thing that drives them to make a newer, better, stronger, faster thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the internet is the way it is, because of those kinds of people, like open source technology. And, you know, people think that capitalism drives innovation, but in reality, the people who are creating these technological, you know, masterpieces or whatever, people are creating things and putting them online for free, or like providing them to these broader communities for free. And that really is what drives forward, you know, a massive amount of like new creation and innovation and better ideas. And like, so hopefully, you know, I guess AI remains. That's kind of the weird thing to think about too, right? Is like we can access Chat GPT, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah,
we can access that. So what the fuck can Elon Musk access? You know what I mean? At this moment in time, that's another thing to think about. Or even like Elon Musk, you know, he's a bitch. Whatever, he probably is too much of a bitch to use anything cool ever. But what about the fucking CIA, dog? What are they using AI for?
Right.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah, all the layers of like
Could be
what we're
a
just away from.
CIA generated AI, for all you know.
Right. I've never seen you in person, so that's definitely a possibility. I am simply a disembodied head generated by AI that floats above the planet.
We got to move past leftist infighting and just start criticizing each other of being AIs. That's what we got to do next.
Yeah.
That's
no
the
longer
next
CIA, it's AI.
infighting. Yes. It just, the question is really which 3-letter agency you were generated by, and how much did it cost to make you? You know?
Yeah. Is there anything else that you feel that we didn't cover? Anything you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. I do think that I want to think more. I definitely now I'm interested more again, and I'm probably going to use the Chat GPT thing just to see what it can do. Like I am genuinely curious to see, can it write something for me, or like can it assist in any part of my process? Because if so, you know, I just think that's interesting. I don't see it like replacing me or anything like that anytime soon. But I am curious to see how it might, you know, it might help. So, are you going to be streaming for a while, or did you say you were going to go use it?
I'm going to be using it tomorrow. I'm going to be wrapping up shortly after this conversation.
Okay, same. I was just going to raid you, but I'll raid somebody else. We could dual raid them again if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you can raid whoever you want. I'll probably raid Cosmopolitics because she raided me recently.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that was fun. I enjoyed the conversation. We should talk more.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's always a good time. Like, you know, we're enough on the same wavelength where we can get past a lot of the preamble and get right into talking about shit, which is something that I really enjoy.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it as well. So thanks for reaching out, Globus. That was a good combo. Everybody go follow Globus the Elder.
Everyone go follow Levelhead. And probably everyone in your chat knows me as, you know, the person standing there waiting to spoil their good time. And
I don't think so.
No,
you know, unless they're arguing about whether systemic racism exists, and then in which case ban them.
Hi, right. Raffle. Hi, DF. How are you doing? Hi, M9, wherever you are.
I still have an M9 unban request sitting in my thing. But yeah, we got the DF. DF may be an AI, honestly, right wing AI.
Right, just generating that, and that leads us, and we could do this for another 2 hours. So, we'll leave it at this. I appreciate you. I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thanks, Globus.
Take care.
Bye.
And that's what, like, first of all, like, the fact that, like, you know, Professor Q was in here on Saturday saying that he enjoyed that was interesting in the conversation that we were having about that. Scribbles, same thing. Is like, you know, I want you to both enjoy this, you know, as an experience. I want you to think it's valuable. You know, because unfortunately, there's a lot of content, like there is popcorn content, fast food content all over the app, all over the platform, and it's there. And I just want y'all to eat something a little bit healthier, and, you know, I want y'all to think. I want y'all to have good. You don't have to agree with me. You 100% don't have to agree with me. That's fine. You're wrong, but that's fine. But I want you to know why you believe what you believe. I want you to know why you think what you think, and I want you to have a good, solid foundation on which your beliefs are built. Because I think it's important to us as a species, us as a society, us as, you know, humans, is like we need to think about thinking, and to think about the things and not be ruled by our gut reactions to the point where we're just ignoring that shit. It's like you brought up a really valuable point, is that, you know, like, personally, fuck coal. We don't need coal anymore. But that means that a lot of coal people are not going to work anymore, and we need to take care of those people for every reason you could think of. We need to be empathetic to their situation, because they live under a capitalism and they're being put out of a job by factors that could be outside of their control. There is a allegorical alignment between artists being put out of work by AI and coal miners being put out of work by green energy. Right? We need to be empathetic to them on that foundation. We need to take care of them. We also don't want them to end up radicalized and everything else, so it's in our own self-interest to take care of them beyond our, you know, greater, you know, empathetic nature and our high ideals, just on a fundamental level. Like, so it's all the things. It's not just one thing, it's all the things. There are no simple solutions to complex problems, which means we got to look at all the shit and like that. Tomorrow I don't have an interview, so I will be, and I know Cosmopolitics, so we probably will do a double raid. Tomorrow I am going to be busting out ChatGPT in order to give that a go and see what that has going on to it. Because I don't have an interview lined up. So it'll be like more of that type of content, less of an interview. Unless somebody steps up in the meantime. You know, I am open to having additional conversations. Wednesday, I'm talking with Endless. Endless is in the 3D printing space. He, and he's a solid working class dude looking at things from the working class aspect. So I really hope that, I look forward to being, to having that conversation with him and getting that perspective. So, without further ado, let us raid RAID. Cosmopolitics. And we're good. Stick around for the raid. Say hi. Make me look good. There we go. Number go up. Drink your water. Eat your food. Take your meds. Shoggy loves you. So do I. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Minutes and 30 seconds, or what, or like almost 3 minutes long. So like, it just looks so much better in the comments. People even agree.
Breaking his driver's legs. There's that time I called it an vagina in the first place. This is this burning because I couldn't life word. I called him Romeo and stuck in a house.
Oh, thank you for the raid, Globus the Elder. Welcome in, everyone. My name is Cosmopolitics. I stream politics and pop culture. We have very chill, cozy vibes here. I'm currently dog sitting, which explains the lack of bisexual lighting. But yes, welcome in, Raiders. Let's see. Let me do the